Yo guys, what's up? Axel back with another video today, and we're talking about the one and only Chongyun. And I bet you're wondering, why is the title The Problem with Chongyun? Well, I've realized so far in the Genshin community that everyone seems to be soft. Now, I know that might be shocking to you guys, but a lot of people don't like talking about the flaws with characters, because every time I bring up a flaw with a character, everyone's like, oh, he's not bad. You know, I'm not roasting them, guys. I'm not saying characters are bad. I'm saying that there's flaws with certain characters that people just don't want to admit. So this is what the series is for. I'm going to take all the hate while I give you guys all the advice, right? Now, letting you know, Chongyun's not bad, right? He's not a bad character. He's a flawed character, but not a bad character. Now, let me explain. Right, Chongyun has one of the best character designs, in my opinion, right? I love how Chongyun looks. I love his, his kit as a DPS, right? Constellations do help him a lot. I like how the end of his E kind of has that AoE cryo damage if you have him at C1, right? If you don't have him C1, you are not able to do that, right? So I'll start off with the positive with Chongyun, right? I think he's very easy to build, right? I think artifacts, you can use this, you can use, cryo attack, his artifacts are really easy to build. They're not that complicated. I use this because I like to freeze a lot with the Xingqiu, right? So, weapons, claymores have a bunch of weapons in the game. You can just get a free-to-play one like this one. You can get, a sacrificial sword if you're using it as a support. Very easy weapon to get as a DPS, right? You can even use Debate Club, right? If you're a beginner, right? Debate Club works for him as a DPS, right? Now, his talents, very simple. Just make these two high if you're running him as supports. If you're running him as DPS, you want to get this to all 6, right? You need this to get, once you release the E, it'll end right here. See this little thing right there? It's just a slow attack right at the end, right? Once the cooldown is done, right? Now, we look at his, profile, right? Very, very typical stuff, right? He's, affiliation, Leeway Harbor, Cryo, he has his own, storyline, hangout event, right? He has a lot of, impact on this game, right? He has a lot of stuff surrounding around him. He so far hasn't shown up in the story for, as far as I know, he only has the hangout event, right? He's very easy to build, what I'm trying to say. He's a very fun character to play. I think he's one of the funnest characters to play as a DPS, but that's not what we're talking about. A lot of people don't use him as a DPS, and sorry to say that, but that's true. A lot of people don't use him as a DPS. Most people use him as a support. Now, when we're talking about a support, there's better options. I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm not going to cap to you. There are better options than Chongyun, right? Look at this. I go to my Kaya, right? Let's bring up Kaya. Kaya, 100 times better than Chongyun as a support. When you're talking about burst teams, like burst supports, burst DPS, Kaya is a must-need for him. His E, barely any recharge. His Q, you can get that in seconds if you have good energy recharge. He's perfect for burst teams, which burst teams are very popular right now. So I would recommend Kaya over Chongyun as a support any day, especially if you're running a burst team. Diana, I consider one of the best DPS, not DPS, the best supports in the game, right? I messed up my words, but I consider one of the best supports in the game, right? You got shield, you got healed, you got constant cryo effect, and cryo is one of the best applications in the game, right? I consider Diana one of the best supports in the game. Let's go to Rosaria, right? Rosaria has constant cryo, kind of similar to Diana, right? I consider Rosaria one of my favorite characters to play as support, right? Great cryo character. Her E, nothing special, just gives you cryo real quick, teleports right behind the person in case you want to dodge an attack or whatever, right? Very easy to build. Weapons, just get a Favonius lance and you're good, right? Chi-Chi, healer, they don't really have any correlation. Eula, a physical damage dealer, there's not really competition. Now, what really wanted me to compare, talk about the problem of Chongyun is Ayaka. Ayaka has so far outclassed Chongyun, it's actually crazy, right? She can make her normal attacks, cryo from, I think it's her dash, right? And Chongyun, that was his specialty. Ayaka literally just took that specialty and just took it away from him, right? Chongyun was like, that was the only thing going for him, is that he could turn attacks into cryo, his own attacks into cryo. Now Ayaka has that. So Chongyun, he kind of got shafted, right? He got shafted by getting power crept, right? I know a lot of people don't like me talking about power crept, but sorry guys, it's an actual thing in the game, right? So Ayaka, I think, has surpassed Chongyun. Ganyu, do I really need to talk about why Ganyu is better than Chongyun, right? She's just broken, right? Everyone knows her. She has a sniper, she has a bazooka, whatever you want to call it, as for a bow, right? Now, I'm not saying Chongyun's bad. I love playing Chongyun as a DPS, right? His E, it's great. Now, I love using cryo attacks, great if, especially you just, activate Xing Chu's Q and you're freezing everyone, right? Now, the reason why this is bad is because this right here, his best thing can also be his weakness, right? Everyone likes to roast Bennett C6 about how every time he places a Q, his little circle thing, you get pyro attacks. That's like the thing no one wants to do. But for some reason, it's Chongyun's signature ability, right? Of course, it makes sense as a DPS, but as a support, it's not that great, right? Unless we're talking about certain characters like Diluc, right? For that, Diluc is just god tier with that. Maybe sometimes Beto, but for example, someone like Razor, who's a very popular DPS that a lot of people like using, he's not that great for it, right? Razor and Chongyun, that's like a nightmare pairing, right? Chongyun and Eula, nightmare pairing, right? Maybe not as much of a nightmare pairing to Razor and Chongyun, because she has her Q and Chongyun doesn't change that, but either way, right, not that good of a pairing, right? And you can say that for a lot of DPS, because a lot of DPS kind of need their normals. They want to do their normals, and if they don't do their normals, then what's the point of having him as a support, right? The E is best utilized as a DPS. He has his basic attacks where if you run it out, you get those 3 cryo AoE slashes, which just solidifies him as a DPS, right? But if we took him as a DPS, right? Are you guys... I'm saying that I love using Chongyun as support. I've recently built him, but I have a lot of people built. If you look right here, I have a majority of this roster built, right? It might not look like it, but I have Amber almost built. See? I have her 6 talents on the normals. I just need to upgrade these and she will be built, right? I have everyone up to Xinyan built, right? Built with, the talents that are needed, right? Pretty much I have most of these characters built. I might not have all of them with, high normal attack damages. Why would I need that, right? So, pretty much as a DPS, there's a lot of better characters to use. Chongyun is pretty much not a top tier DPS, how most people like to say it. You got people like Chao, Diluc, Eula, Zhao, and even Beto and Razor, who you might consider better DPS, but Chongyun really shines when he has all these constellations. But other than that, he is garbage as a support, right? If we're talking about support, right, he is garbage, right? For just just going around hitting people, right? I would not recommend him as a support at all in this game, unless there is only one circumstance where I'd be like, Chongyun, use him as support, and this is right here, the Spiral Abyss. Now, most people might say being good in this area is probably the most important thing to be good in, right? If you're good, if you're not good in everything else, but you're good in this, that is important. But Chongyun only is good for this one matchup. Let's go to floor 10. This is the new Spiral Abyss floor that's just been added, so I haven't really, really familiarized myself with this. Abyss Heralds, Chongyun is a top tier matchup against this, right? If we're talking about Abyss Heralds, he is one of the best matchups against it because he turns all your attacks to cryo damage. Now, not a lot of people have that ability, so that's what makes Chongyun special. That's the only time where that turning normals into cryo is one of the most necessary things to have, right? It makes this fight a lot easier because you just pop an E, maybe the Abyss Herald hit you with one of the water attacks that makes you lose all your energy, right? You pop the E, now you're doing constant cryo. You don't have to worry about waiting for your other E or recharge type, because now you have cryo hits that will take away his shield, right? That also works for here. I think it's right here. No, this is the Pyro and Cryo, right? You see Electro Herald, right? These are great matchups, right? But other than that, I wouldn't take him here, right? I'm not taking him here. I'm not taking him against, one of these guys, right? Mainly in the beginning, right? I think Cryo is a lot of the enemies' things, right? You got Cryo Hilly Trolls and stuff like that. You got Cryo Futui slingers and stuff like that, right? I'm not recommending Chongyun over someone like Kaya, right? I think Kaya is a person everyone has, right? I don't have my Kaya high constellation. I have like him constellation 1, and this is not even good for me because every time someone's hit by a cryo effect, he gets increased crit rate, right? I don't use that because Kaya is the person supposed to be applying cryo. So why would the character already have cryo in the first place, right? That doesn't work for me, right? I don't use this, right? Unless you're using a sacrificial bow, then you might use it. And plus, it's easier to get weapons for Kaya like this. You know, it's not hard to build Kaya. Anyone can build a Kaya. Look at all these weapons I have, right? I'm a free to play. I've only bought the battle pass once, right? And people might not consider that free to play because, you know, I bought a battle pass, so technically I spent money, right? So, you know, I've been mostly free to play, and I have enough weapons for Kaya, right? Kaya is very easy to build. I would recommend Kaya as a support any day. I would recommend Dione as a support any day. As a DPS, well, Chongyun is better than all of these characters. He's better than Rosaria as a DPS. He's better than Dione as a DPS. He's better than Kaya as a DPS. I've seen people run Chi-Chi as a DPS. She does do crazy damage, but I do recommend Chongyun as a better DPS, right? If we're talking about a cryo DPS, I guess he's better than Eula because Eula is a physical DPS. But either way, Chongyun is a great DPS. If you think you should be running Chongyun as support, you are wrong. You are horribly wrong. Chongyun is a better DPS, and that's the biggest problem, is that most people don't like him using as DPS. Most people want to use him as support. I know you guys want to use him as support, but he's not good as support. That's his problem, right? I think all of his kit is literally designed to be a DPS. This is mainly able to be used for him, right? Of course, that little, you know, E where it comes falling down and it brings the sword, obviously a support role, or just, you know, you can use it as DPS too, right? You know, gives you extra crowd damage. His Q is pretty much meant for him to be a DPS, or you can use it as, like, you know, a support. You know, maybe you're using a burst support, but first you need to put his E, unless you have another battery character. I think Chongyun, if you're thinking about ever using him, use him as a DPS. I think once you use him as support, you lose so much value, and I think that's a problem with Chongyun, is that people keep on using him as support, and I think once he's a support, I think he's bad, right? I think he's not good. I think him as a DPS, and I've only recently started using him as DPS. I value him a lot more as a DPS than I ever did as a support, right? So if you ever want to use Chongyun, I recommend you use him as a DPS. You know, maybe people might say, well, I like using, you know, his E, right? There's not really many people to use him as his E. What, you could have used Hu Tao, you could have used, you know, Beidou, maybe that might work, but when you're using characters like a Eula, a Zhao, you know, especially a Zhao, you barely use his normals. You're using his, you know, his Q form where all his attacks is AoE. You know, Chongyun, not great as support. That's his biggest problem. And with Ayaka and, you know, like characters like Rosaria and Kaya, they kind of, you know, make him de-shine as a support. In the beginning of the game, Diluc was the best DPS, so he was obviously had more value. And he kind of lost that value as support as time went on, because, you know, people figure out, wow, Kaya is actually really good. Dione does pretty much everything as support. Rosaria is great. You know, she's a fun character to play with. You know, constant cryo, AoE. You know, just great damage overall. And Chongyun's like, well, he can turn normals into cryo, I guess, right? Nothing special, right? As DPS, I think he is special. I think, you know, using him as a DPS is always the best option, but most people don't use 4 stars as DPS because they're like, well, I got a 5-star. Why would I use a 4-star, right? But either way, right, I think Ayaka has really shown the flaws with Chongyun. I think Ayaka is pretty much the better Chongyun, and that's the term of power crap, right? She pretty much can do what Chongyun does, but better. Better support, better sub DPS, better DPS, especially if you have a better sword, right? Chongyun might be easier to play with, but I think he outshines once you get someone like Ayaka. He doesn't get outshined by cryo DPS because, you know, except for Ganyu. Ganyu is just broken, right? Use him as a DPS. Honestly, use him as a DPS, because otherwise he is garbage. I'm sorry to tell you guys, he is bad at support. E is not that good unless you're fighting the Abyss Herald. Now, you might consider that valuable, but, you know, one matchup doesn't make him good, right? So, that's my opinion. I'm going to probably make this a series where I talk about every single character, what I think the problem is. It might be hard to make a video about Bennett, but I'm trying to go through all of them. Let me know down in the comments what character you want to be the problem with. If you're talking about people like Noel, Ningguang, or any of these characters down here, I'll build them, I'll give them a shot, and I'll tell you what the problem I find with them is, because I notice the Genshin Impact community can be soft at times, that they don't want me to, you know, don't want most content creators to talk about the flaws with certain characters. So I'm gonna be that again. guy. I'm going to talk about the flaws of the characters. I'm going to get some backlash. I know I'm going to get backlash by making these type of videos, but I don't care, because people need to know that Chongyun, as a support, he is outclassed by pretty much every cryo character in this game. And I need to, guys, let you know that if you're using Chongyun, try using him as DPS. Give him a shot, right? Most people don't like him using Force Touch as DPS, but he's a great DPS. Cryo DPS, has good elemental reactions. Use him as DPS. I don't recommend him as a support. If you're using him as a support, use Kaya. Kaya's free. He's a great DPS, especially a great support as for burst teams. So Chongyun, he's really lacking as a support, and most people don't use him as a DPS. So that's all I have to say. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.